Hello, everybody. I've got the Arizona State Legislature website pulled up, and because I couldn't get there's a tiny bit of a glare. I'm hoping you guys can see well enough to see what it is that I'm doing. So it was azleg.gov. I'm just going to show you real quick some of these things so that you can play around with it and figure out how to maneuver this. Okay, so I'm going to go right here. There's several tabs up across the very top here. So like the Senate, it has the Senate website and live proceedings and things like that, and the member list and all of that stuff here across the top. You've got all these things, but then there's also these big bars here. So like here, the member roster, you can pull up the member roster for the House and the Senate, and it gives you their I'll just show you what this is. So it gives you all of the names of the representatives, their district, their party, their email, what their office number is, their phone number, all of those things. And if you click on a person's name, right? So like John Allen is one of mine here. If you click on his name, it'll tell you some information about them, and then it tells you also, like over here, it says which committees he's on. So he's the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and he's on Health and Human Services and State Internal Affairs. Over here on this side, it tells you that information, and you can click on those committees to find out more things. Also, if you scroll down, it gives you a list of their sponsored bills. And so as you start looking up some of these bills, this really tells you a lot right here about the people, because if there are bills that we support and we like and people are supporting those, then that's good. And if they're supporting and sponsoring a lot of bills that are terrible, then that tells you something as well. So it gives you these things here. What are their bills that they support? And sometimes too, this is how I look for bills. So if I know people, whether they're pro-family, pro-life, or the opposite, I will sometimes search through bills this way to just sort of, you can read the little short title of it, right? What it's about, and then if you want to click on one of these, you can click over on the lettering and it'll pull up that bill. So this is kind of a nice, this was that Simon's Law right here. Oops. Well, I may go back because I don't know what I just did. Okay, so right here is Simon's Law. I just lost it. Oh, the Do Not Resuscitate right here. That was the one that Nancy Bartow was talking about parental consent, right? So that's what that says right there. And if you click on it, again, it says HB, which means it started in the House, this particular bill. And if you click on the bill itself, this is hard to do at this angle, it'll take you to the page that tells you about that bill. So you can click on it. I'm at a weird angle because of filming. And it gives you the bill. This is the bill, right? So it gives you the bill history, when it's been assigned to different committees, dates of things, the votes that happened, and you can click on them and find specific votes, like who voted what on those as well. It'll tell you when it was transmitted to the Senate, what the final vote was. So you can get all of that information on here about the bills and the votes. Up here also at the top, it has the bill status, videos, sponsor keywords, documents. So I go over to this documents a lot, and if you click on the documents over here and you click on that, it'll pull up, you can find, so the introduced version, the House engrossed version, these are some different versions of the bill, depending on what they did. So you can click on these and you can pull up either a PDF or an HTML. So if we look at like the introduced version, this was where they were saying it had the original language of having parental consent, right? And so these are do not resuscitate orders. It tells you which representatives, so Shauna Bolick, who we met today, Nancy Bartow, who we met today, and then John Allen, Jay Lawrence, and then Osborne and Toma here, they all introduce the bill. And then it goes down to the wording of the bill, right, what it says. And you read through it and you learn how to read the language of it. It just takes some practice of reading it. It's, it can be like reading Chinese at first, but you learn how to do that. So going back, see if I can go back to where I was. That's not where I want to be. I'll go back to the house member here. I have some tabs open. Okay, so I'm going to go back to where I was at the very beginning with those other tabs. And okay, so oops, sorry, bear with me. azledge.gov. Okay, so at this first thing here, right? So that was under members. Legislative tracking, there's the request to speak, which I have open in a different one because that one can kind of, this is what the request to speak looks like. I'm going to go to it in a different tab. You're not going to be able to do that right now because you have to, there has to be a committee hearing coming up for you to request to speak on a bill. There are no active bills right now, so you're not going to be able to sign up for that. But this is where it is, how to request to speak, for when you want to do that. So going here, right, this is information about committees and the committee agendas. You can look them up and see what they have coming up. Here, Capitol Television on this side over here, I think I have that up as a tab. Nope, maybe not. I thought I had one open. That I'll do that in a minute because that takes you where it's hard to get back. So the Capitol Television is where you can look at the live proceedings. Okay, so I'm going to click here at the bill tracking. And this is another place, right, where you can look up bills. So if you you can enter the bill number if you know it. There's a place where you can search. So you can search bill statuses, and there's over here on this side, you can search for keywords. That's where I was telling you can type in some keywords to look and see if there's legislation. You can also pull up certain, if you know that they're really strong conservative representatives, you can look at what bills they're sponsoring. Nancy Bartow is a good one. Shauna Bullock. There's just several of them that have some good ones. And then you can search by keywords. I'm going to sign on here to show you how to do this. So I'm going to sign in. I've got I think it should have it ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to go back. This is when you get to the request to speak, sometimes you have to actually put in the new, at least I do. I can never figure out how to get back. When I go to the legislative tracking, okay, so I'm going to the bill tracking. I'm signed in. And when you look up a bill, one of the things that's over here on the left, okay, this is what I was talking about over here, is that there's this thing that says personal progress right here on the left. So that's where you can create a list. It's under the legislative tracking section of the website. So if I click on personal progress, what it does is it pulls up my list, okay? And so here was my 2019 list that I made. I was following 18 bills through this tracker. Some of them I kept track of in other ways, but you can click on the list, and what happens, it pulls up these bills over here, and so it gives you all of these are the bills that I was following. If I signed in on them, it had that up there. And up here at the top, this was the alerts right here at the very top. If something is going to be voted on or something has changed about one of the bills that you're following, you'll get an alert up there in the box. So obviously there was something that I didn't open up the alert in the system, but I was following the bills to see what happened. But you'll get alerts up here in this corner on these bills that you're following. So if you're wanting to add a bill, let's see, I'm going to put, okay, so the sex education, it says right here, this was one from this last year, 2578. So if I go here to do bill overviews, and I enter a search, so that was the sex education one from last year, HB 2578. So I type in the number, because I know that that's the sex education bill from this last year, and I hit search. Okay, again, it pulls up that bill, right? This is just if you're looking for bills in here. It tells me all of the stuff, who sponsored it, all of these things. Right here, this little box at the bottom says you can send it to Personal Progress. It'll only do this if you're logged in. So if you're not logged in, you can't do this part. But right here at the bottom, when you're pulling up a thing about a bill, before you click on, it's on the overview section here. If you're clicking on a thing on a bill, it'll ask you if you want to send it to Personal Progress, and you select a list, right? So 2019 was my last list, and I would select it and then hit send to list, which this one is already on there, but then that activates that bill into my into my list, so that I get alerted if it's going to be in committee, if the House is going to vote on it, when it gets transmitted to the Senate, all of those things that I want to know. It'll alert me. I do have to log in and check this website. If you know what committees things are sent to and which days the committee meets, like committees tend to meet, every Wednesday morning or every Thursday afternoon. There's specific committees. So that can kind of help you get an idea of when to check on some of these bills if you're following them. So the abortion bills are typically in the Health and Human Services Committee. So if I know when the Health and Human Services Committee meets in the House and the Senate, then I can watch some of these bills to see if they're going to be coming up in the committee. That helps me figure that out. Otherwise, it's just kind of hit or miss, and you just check your alerts periodically. If you log in, you can check the alerts. It doesn't take that long, and see if anything has happened with the bills that you're following. So going back to, I'll show you that one more time where that is. AZ Ledge. That was here under legislative tracking, right? So I just went to this first tab. And if you're on your phone and you can't do this, it's a little bit harder. You can go to bills and do bill tracking up here. I just have found that it works better on a laptop rather than on my phone. It's a lot easier to maneuver. The desktop version is better than the phone version. So it was legislative tracking, hit bill tracking. I can search for a specific bill number, or I can search down here by keyword. If I'm looking for specific things, I can look at the agendas of the different committees right here. There's not going to be any committees on here right now, but you can click a committee over here, House and Senate, and then click the committee and find out what's going to be on there. Sometimes I do that because, like I said, Health and Human Services and Judiciary tend to have a lot of the bills that I follow. So I can follow and look through that way. So you can play around with that. You can't, like I said, you can't sign on or check agendas because there's nothing happening at the legislature right now. But that sort of gives you a little bit of an idea of how to do it. And then right up here, this shows that I'm logged in here under my account. It says my name there. If I wasn't logged in, it would ask me if I wanted to sign on up there, and I just click and sign on. And again, remember, the very first time when you set up an account, it has to be at the Capitol. You have to set it up there, and then after that, from home, you just go onto that website and you can look around. So hopefully that helps. And if you have any other questions, be sure to let me know. Thanks.